Dr. Morales, and today we are going to continue with the SAT math practice for algebraic reasoning or algebraic thinking. All of the questions that we are going to do today, you should be able to solve with just knowledge of pre-algebra or early algebra. So let's start. A phone plan charges $20 per month. $20 per month, so let's underline that. Remember, per means multiplication, so 20 multiplied by the month, plus, that's your addition sign, $10, 10 cents, 0.10 per text messages. Okay, so it's a plus and another multiplication, 10 cents multiplied by the number of text messages. If the bill for a month is $35, how many text messages were sent? Okay, so this is the question. Now, the bill for 1 month, so it's going to be 20 times 1, so we're just going to leave it as 20. So 20, they didn't give me the equation, so I'm going to build it from the information they gave me. So 20 times the month, it's just 1 month, so it's going to be 20 plus 10 cents per text messages. And that's my question, how many text messages? So that's going to be my variable because I don't know how many text messages. So I need a variable to represent the number of text messages. So it's 10 cents multiplied by the messages, M for messages. And that bill was equals to $35. Now remember, when you have a number and a variable together, that means multiplication. Okay, so here you have it. This is a two-step equation, so let's solve it. Let's get rid of the 20 by subtracting. So when you subtract 20 and subtract 20, now you have this cancels, and now you have that 0.10 times the messages that we don't know is equal to 35 minus 20, which is 15. And now my last step is to divide because the 0.10 is multiplying. So the opposite of multiplying, multiplication is division. So when you divide 15 by 0.10, you get that the answer equals, or the number of messages is 150. So there were 150 messages sent. Okay, number 8. A print shop charges $25 cents per page. There's your multiplication, 25 times the pages, plus a $5 setup fee. So that $5 is just a standard fee. That doesn't change. That's called a constant. If the total cost for printing is $17.15, that's your equal sign. That's the total, so that goes after the equal sign. How many pages were printed? So let's build our equation. So you can start with the total, $17.15 is equal to, and 50 cents, sorry, is equal to the 25 cents per page. I don't know the page because that's my question, how many pages, so that's going to be my variable. So whatever question they're asking, if you don't have that information, that's your variable. So 25 cents times the number of pages plus my $5, which is a setup fee. So I pay this $5 no matter how many pages. All right, two-step equations again. Subtract the 5. When I subtract my 5, I get 1750 minus 5 is 1250. So 1250 equals to 0.25 equals 0.25p. Once again, we have multiplication, and like I told you before, to find out how many pages, we're going to divide because the opposite of multiplication is to divide. So 1250 divided by 0.25 gives you a total of 50 pages. So there were 50 pages printed in this question. All right, number 9. Jake saves $50 each week. Okay, so that's another multiplication word, each. Okay, so $50 multiplied by the number of weeks, that gives me how much he saves from his paycheck, he already has $300 saved. So that's your beginning value. That's your plus. He has $300, and to that is going to add $50 every week. The total savings is after W week, that's your variable. They're telling you what variables to use, is given by this equation. Good, they gave you the equation, so you don't have to build it. So S, remember, total savings is equal to 300. That's the amount he already has, plus the $50 times 2 weeks. How many weeks? Okay, we need to find W. How many weeks until he has $1,000? So $1,000 is the total savings that he wants to have. So we're going to put $1,000 in place of the S, is because S is the total savings. He wants to have $1,000. So $1,000 is equal to 300 plus 50 weeks, 50 times the W, 50 times W, because we don't know. So we need to find out how many weeks. So let's solve this equation. Once again, two-step equation, subtract the 300, because that's the first thing we do. So that's 700 equals to 50W. And just like the other question, to get rid of the 50, 50 is multiplying. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. So we're going to divide 700 divided by 50, and I get an answer of 14 weeks. So in order for Jake to have $1,000 in the bank, he will need 14 weeks if he's saving $50 each week. Okay, number 10. A car travels at a constant speed of 60 miles per hour. All right, so a few things. We know per means multiplication, so 60 times the hours. When you see the words constant speed, that's your rate of change. Okay, so that's your rate of change, which is another word for slope. The distance D in miles after T hours. Okay, so we're going to use the variable T to represent the hours and D to represent the distance. Is given by D equals 60D. 60 times D. So these are your equations. Remember, they give you an equation, so you have to use it. They want you to solve it. So 60T. So here's your question. How long? Long is time. So remember, how long? That's time. So they want time. Will it take to drive 270 miles? So they give you 270 miles. You need to substitute that. Miles is distance. So the D is going to be substituted for 270. And they want you to find T because T represents time. And the question says how long. So it's a time question. So we're substituting D for 270. And then we are going to find T. And remember, 270 equals 60 times T. This is a division problem because the opposite of multiplication is to divide. So 270 divided by 60 gives you an answer of 4.5 equals T. And what units is that? T is represents hours. So the answer is 4.5 hours, or 4 hours and 30 minutes. Okay, number 11. Lena's savings account balance grows linearly each month. After 4 months, she has $400, and after 8 months, she has $600. The total amount A is modeled by A equals B plus MT, where T is the time in month. What is the initial deposit amount? Okay, so there's a lot of things going on in this question. First, the word linearly. So every time you hear the word linearly, think about the equation Y equals MX plus B. And I'm going to explain what this equation means. So this is the equation for a linear function. That's why the word linearly tells you this is a linear function. In a linear function means that there is a constant rate of change, which is represented by the letter M, which is called the slope. This is the slope. Remember, I told you in the previous question, constant rate of change is another word for slope. Okay, so anything that's changing at the same amount is going to be a linear function. So we have the slope, and now the B plus B, this B represents the y-intercept, or in this case, because it's a real life scenario, is the initial value. Okay, So this is the initial value, which is what the question is asking for. What is the initial deposit? Okay, so the B is the initial value. So if you look at the equation they gave me, it's the same equation, just they put different variables because instead of X, they're using the letter T, which is the time, and instead of Y, they're using the letter A. So it represents the total amount. And it's the same exact equation, it's just the B is in front instead of at the end, but it's still being added. Okay, so now we are going to, I need to build this equation with the information they gave me and find B, which is the initial deposit. So first I need to find the slope. So slope is how much is changing every time. So in order to find the slope, they did give me the information. They said that after 4 months, there were $400, and then after 8 months, there were $600. So those are two order pairs. So we have 4 and 400. This is my first order pair, 4 and 400. And my second order pair, it means 4 months, $400. My second order pair is 8 months, is $600. Okay, so there's the two order pairs. Once you have order pairs, then you can find the slope, because the slope is the change in Y. Remember, this is X and this is Y. This is X and this is Y. So the change in Y over the change in X. So the change in Y is from 400 to 600. There was a change of $200. And over the change in X, from 4 months to 8 months, it was 4 months difference. So 200 over 4 gives you $50. So, or 50, which means that every month the account, because this is talking about a savings account, was changing by $50. So the M is 50. So now I go over here and I have my equation to be Y equals, and I'm using X and Y. You can go and use A and T. It doesn't matter, as long as you know that the Y is the total amount, the X is the time. So this is 50 X plus B. Remember the question, we need to find B. Okay, so now in order to find B, now you're going to take one of these points, it doesn't matter which one, substitute the X and the Y, and that will give you B. So any other points will work. So I'm going to use the first one. So X is 4 and Y is 400. So I'm going to substitute the Y for the 400. And like I said, it doesn't matter which points you use, as long as you put the numbers in the right place. Y is 400 and X is 4. So that's going to be 50 times 4 plus B. Once I put this, I am going to solve for B. And the first thing I have to do is 50 times 4, and 50 times 4 is 200. So now I get 200 plus B equals 400. Equals 400. And now this is a one-step equation. In order to solve for B, I have to get rid of that 200, which is being added. So if I subtract the 200 from this side and also from this side, I get that B equals 200. So B is equal to 200, and B is the initial deposit. So the answer to question 11 is $200. The initial deposit, 200, or the initial amount, $200. All right, number 12, a car's value depreciate. That means the value goes down linearly. So there's that word again. After 2 years, it is worth 19,000, and after 5 years, it is worth 10,000. The value V is modeled by V equals B plus MT, where T is the time in years. What is the car original purchase price? This question is similar to that. They're asking for the same exact information. They want the original purchase price, the original initial value, which is B. So we're going linearly, means every time you see linearly, think about Y equals MX plus B. And M is the slope, B is the initial value. In this case, B represents the value of the car. Okay, so this is the same equation they gave you over here. And now I need to find B. So first I need to find the slope. So here are my two order pairs. So 2 after 2 years is 19,000. So I'm gonna put 219,000. That's my first point. That means after I have my car for 2 years, the car is worth $19,000. But then what happened after 5 years? The car depreciates. That means the amount goes down to 10,000. Okay, so this is 10,000. $10,000. All right, so let's find the slope. Remember the slope, the difference in the y. This is y and this is x. So from 19 to 10,000, the amount went down. That means it's going to be a negative value of $9,000. So it went down by 9,000. So I'm going to put negative 9,000. And now the change in x is from 2 to 3. From 2 to 5 is 3. So 3. Okay, so 9,000 divided by 3 is negative 3,000. Okay, so now I'm going to go in my equation and I'm going to substitute my slope for negative 3,000. So y equals negative 3,000x plus b. Okay, and they didn't ask me for the slope. They asked me for the initial deposit, so I need to find b. If this question would ask me what is the rate of depreciation, my answer will be 3,000. That means every year the car is losing value, the $3,000. Okay, so now I'm going to take, remember step 2, we're going to substitute x and y with one of these points, and that's going to give me my b. So I'm going to use the second point just because I don't like 19, I like 10 better. So I'm going to say if y is 10,000, I'm going to put here 10,000. One more 0 equals to negative 3,000 times x, and x is 5. So negative 3,000 times x times 5, and then plus b. Okay, plus b. So now I am going to first multiply this. Negative 3,000 times 5, that gives me negative 15,000. So I have negative 15,000 plus b equals 10,000. And to finish my equation, I need to get rid of that negative 10,000. So the opposite, the negative 15,000. So the opposite of negative 15,000 is positive 15,000. In other words, I will have to add it, because if I subtract it, I'll get my answers, my numbers don't cancel. So when I add it, I get that the original value, the original price of the car is 10,000 plus 15,000, which gives you 25,000 is my answer. Okay, so there you have. This is just other ways to solve these questions. These are questions for algebraic reasoning, and in order for you to solve this question, you just have to have some knowledge of pre-algebra or early algebra. Once again, if you like this video, please hit the like button and watch my other videos. This is part 2.